go up against a defense that looks as sound as Duke's defense looks, where do you go? Like, it doesn't seem like they have any obvious weaknesses. So how do you approach them?
Yeah, well, I was with Coach Fuller at Chattanooga, who actually is a descendant of that Elko type of defense, the 4-2-5, very sound. But no, man, this is what we expect college football defenses to look like. I mean, when you play against good DCs and good players who tackle well and run to the ball and know how to leverage the ball and understand contain and things of that sort, that's what it should look like. Duke gets a lot of credit for that because of the head coach and the coordinators and the position coaches on the defense. But we've seen some good sound defenses here, other than Duke. But Duke is actually, the top in every category. So, we got to be on point and make sure we're not making mistakes. They keep everything in front of them. They tackle well. They're not giving up a lot of big plays. So, those are the things that come to mind as we're preparing for it, and we're just kind of starting that preparation.
Talking about the red zone for them, they have the second best red zone defense in the country. You guys have the 8th best red zone offense in the country. I guess what kind of a battle, what kind of situation are you preparing for that game when it comes into the red zone?
Well, it goes hand in hand. Like, referring back to our last game, where that was the first time we actually did get stopped in the red zone. We thought they had a good plan for us, so we got to build off that and make sure we have answers for what was shown in that game. But, it goes back to them being top in non-red zone. When you're a good defense, you're going to be good in pretty much all those categories. We got to make sure we convert points. We got to make sure we finding ways to create extra gaps. Most defenses start pressuring a little bit more in the red zone. But, with them, I think it just goes back to tackling and keeping things in front of them and capitalize on opportunities. They've actually created a lot of turnovers in the red zone too, which is kind of, up that percentage of stops and non-touchdowns. So we got to go back to doing our job protecting the football. If we do have a long drive, because they're not giving up big plays, so usually it takes 10 to 12 drives to get down there, and they're rotating guys. They got a good, mixture of 8 to 10 guys they play at D-line. So they're probably a little fresher, and some of those guys been out there for 14 plays, so we got to lock in and be able to execute in the red zone. All that takes a part of it, so not only just the plan, but the execution of the plan.
Coach Norvell mentioned you guys had a few missed assignments on offense, had a few drives stall out in enemy territory. How much do you guys harp on this week, even though you guys scored 41 points, but how do you guys keep the players focused on the miscues instead of just celebrating success? How do you do that balance?
The result, of course this is a result-based business, but we try to harp on being process-based of, are you playing your best, and are you executing at a high level, are you doing the best you absolutely can do. And when I came into the offensive meeting, we meet as an offense after the game, and we pointed out every missed assignment by position group, and we did a total amount just to show that, not even talk about the score or the result or the yardage, but are we executing what we're asked to be executed? And that's what creates the competition within the room. We got some good players, and if we got players making mistakes, we got other people that won't. So it's just more challenging in the room to understand that we can't make those mistakes because they'll hurt you in close games and no matter the circumstance. But I don't feel like we can't make those kind of mistakes anymore and expect to have any kind of success. So the message was clear. They understood it. When I walked in, they knew it was kind of trending in that vibe because a lot of our guys, they watched the film before we even go in there. So that's the good thing about the culture of the room is they know the mistakes when they come. Is when you walk in, they kind of look at you and it gets quiet when you walk in. They understand that we didn't reach the internal expectation that we have, and we got to do a better job of it.
You talked before about maybe not being surprised when you see some guys perform on Saturdays based on what you see at practice. Was there anything about Hakeem's touchdown run or catch and run after that was surprising to you, speed or anything like that?
No, Hakeem's confidence has been growing. It's that natural, recruiting and everything is so accelerated now where everybody looks for these young guys so early, man. But they gotta go through it a little bit. And I think as he's improved his conditioning, his confidence, his understanding of the offense, he's really, really accelerated where now he can showcase his ability. But you can't be a good player to, number one, you're not tired. When you fatigue, nobody's good. And also, you're always a step slower when you're thinking and processing information. So as a young, talented player, we all know what he can do. As he's starting to come out of that process of, okay, now I know what to do. Now I'm not as tired. Now I can showcase myself. So now I wasn't surprised. We've seen Hakeem make a bunch of plays in practice, and he's been progressing. So I was just glad, he's getting to showcase his ability and play confident, and hopefully that he builds upon that as we keep going. And then, like you said, that creates more competition in the room.
Coach Stramel talked about kind of how the offensive line he thought did a really good job of limiting negatives against a defense in Syracuse that had created a lot of them coming into that game. I guess you've been down. I think 3 guys have missed stretches of the season. You're rotating in and out. I guess how proud are you of just how your unit has kind of handled that and kept rolling on a week-by-week basis?
I'm proud because I make it really, really tough for them. And it's not a lot of positive moments from day to day because when you coach that position, there's always a mistake that can be made out of, you got to go 5 for 5. And they've embraced that. I got up there this morning. We meet in the morning at 7, and I saw them. They were already in the film room. They were already studying, challenging each other. I put out a big challenge for them last night. But it's really them understanding that, it's not an individual. I mean, whoever's in there in that unit in that room has to perform, and we have to build that continuity. So it's not like I'm rotating on Saturdays like I've been rotating on spring, camp. It's nothing uniquely for us because I also don't want to have players that can help us play in a game sitting on the sideline waiting for a mishap to happen. So by doing that, as these mishaps has happened, we've had a couple guys that were kind of banged up here and banged up there. It was not like it was a large beat missed. And now, some of the guys are making, they're still going to make mistakes. You're still going to, of course, I don't want to give them no pressures, no sacks. I don't want no tackle for loss. You're going to have those deals, but I'm glad that it's not because of us rotating guys. It's the mistakes you're going to have, whether you they leave them out there or not have them out there. So I've been proud of them taking the challenge and accepting it and showing that, it can be done if we're handling business.
As you said, there's going to be a lot of talk about from a coaching standpoint, what Duke does defensively. But from a personnel standpoint, like how stout is their defensive line? What challenges they present physically?
Yeah, I think there's a multitude because of the individual performances. And I'm going to talk in numbers and not necessarily names. Like 5, he's a big, thick, he can hold, he's big man, he can attack the guards, he can get off blocks well. They do a good job of creating ways to find, contain, whether it be the double twist and things of that sort. You got 90 who plays inside and outside. I seen him, against Notre Dame, he was playing outside, he was playing inside. He attacks blocks, got a little twitch about him. And then the backups come in, 16, who I think is going to be a really good player. I'm surprised, he's shown a lot. He's shown up on film a lot because his twitchiness and things of that sort. And then 96, they have enough where there's no lot of drop off. Very similar, you talk about rotating on linemen. I think their D line is really good. I think they do a good job up there. I've known Jess for a minute, so I just think they do a good job of what you want to see in coaching is they get the most out of the talent that they have, and you don't see them make a lot of mistakes. And that is what, and then, I don't want to say that as because they're talented individuals. And they're just maximizing them and not putting them in bad situations. And they're allowed to play fast because they totally understand what they're being asked to do and they know how to attack you. So it's going to be a real challenge. As far as we got to make sure we're not making mistakes, we're not getting in those, because they want to have fun on third down. They got a very detailed, exclusive third down package. So we got to be on point and staying on schedule and making sure we find a way to create some big plays.
Trey had those 2 home runs against Virginia Tech, and it seemed like Lawrence might have had a kind of similar opportunity, and he capitalized on his. What's the art and the science on those runs for you guys without getting too maybe behind the scenes on things? But is it you guys just executing well, or are you guys setting things up to where those outside runs just seem to be hitting at the right time?
Yeah, once you get to game 5 and 6 in the run game, it's pretty much known what we're going to do. There's not like a more secret deal. We got to execute at a high level, and then once they get those opportunities, because we're not giving out, when our backs don't have 30 carries a game and such. So when they get the opportunity to break the line of scrimmage and get to the second level, our guys are thinking to try to go score. They're really focused on trying to get the most out of their opportunity because it's a deep room. We don't count, situations where this guy only got this many, this guy got many. We rotate them pretty good, just like we do it at most positions. So they got to. I think their mindset is they're trying to get as much as they can based upon their opportunities. Now, the coaching part of it is not to press. When you have a little bit of limited opportunity, sometimes you tend to look for a little bit more that isn't there. And I think early in the season that was a little bit, but I think now that we've settled in, we're understanding what the line does well, what their vision's seeing, taking opportunities of what the defense is kind of giving up. It's starting to go like we thought, like I talked about earlier, was it's going to start getting better as we go, and that's what we want. And I think that's what we're seeing is we're coaching it better, they're seeing it better, they're executing it better, and we're just putting them in better situations.
Kind of following up on that, maybe that was a microcosm for this. It seems like the offensive line and the run game numbers get better progressively as the game goes on for you guys consistently for most weeks. Is that by design? Is there anything that I guess is happening there to kind of reflect those numbers?
No, it's just body blows, man. The run game is like taking body blows in boxing, man. You got to keep hitting it, keep wearing, and eventually it'll soften up so you can get the bigger plays to come. So you got to be patient with it. Not many times if you just come out there and you're gashing in the run game early, there's usually a talent or a scheme mismatch where you know those guys they know what we're coming with. They know how to stop us. So it's just more of continuing to keep swinging. Eventually that thing open up for you. And also our players getting that comfort level of, all right, I seen how he reacted to this. Okay, I set that block. I stuck it too early. Let me get back vertical on that. You start to get those conversations on the sideline of, all right, man, coach, I went to the 3 technique. He played it tight. This time I'm going to go inside, so I'm going to tell LT. You know what I mean? You start seeing those guys really holding each other accountable and getting the pictures of it. So I like that about the run game because in the end, I want the run game to be dominant in the 3rd and 4th quarter as we get through the half. And I think that gives you the best chance to, because if you get up by a lot and you can't run the ball, they'll be back.
You mentioned the missed assignments. There's also a few drop passes in pretty big situations. When those happen, how do the guys, specifically about that game, like how do those guys handle it? Do they come to you or Jordan afterwards and try to take accountability? And what's the key to not having that happen?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to just single out the drop pass, but just critical situations where, for example, the last 2 games, the drive before the halves ended in some kind of sack or sack fumble. That was from Virginia Tech and Syracuse, the end of the half 2-minute drive. The red zone deals, we had 2 low snaps in the red zone. The drop came in the red zone. 3rd downs. Like, I think the more frustration is because our guys understand what we're capable of, so that expectation, the standard is so high that you do see some frustrating moments, which I like, because you see the player-to-player accountability. Now, my job as the coach is to control the high-level emotion because our players are competitive. They understand that there's somebody right behind them that's just as close, so you see those high competitive emotional reactions, which is still a good thing because they're showing that they know what we can do. They've seen it. We've executed at a high level. So the frustration comes from, and what are we doing? Like this is easy to us. And once they calm down, I like the response from it. But it's just growing in those situations, and we're starting to see those minimized a little bit more than we've had in the past. So I'm excited about that. But I like the ownership and accountability they have for the expectation of playing their best, especially in critical situations. We got to do a better job. Okay. Thank y'all.